Engagement, for life for making a reality. Language does create the world, really does. If only we can see that.
My departure day from Ibadan, who put me on that plane, she was convinced, and rightly, that I would break and run. I was in love with a person, yes. With a place, yes. With a certain way of being in the world, yes. In all the ways that matter, I've never left that place. When I arrived at Cape Coast Castle, I was brand new, slim, like the tall branch of a flame tree. My skin was unblemished midnight. I was dressed in white adinkra. My mind, though I could not have said it then, decolonized.
Traylor's unique facility with language enthralled students at Georgetown and Cornell universities, at Hobart, Montgomery, and William Smith colleges. And Dr. Traylor has been an advisor for projects ranging from the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the NEA to the Duke Ellington School of Arts and the Steven Spielberg film Amistad. Dr. Traylor lives in a home overflowing with art and memories.
Obatala, Ogun, Orisnala, Jesus, Estrella, Eberanze, mercy. In the Lord, my soul is anchored in the Lord.
So, Dr. Traylor,
Yes, ma'am.
here we sit in your lovely home here in D.C., and we are here on the occasion of the James Baldwin Centennial. It's ongoing, of course, and you're going to be featured at our James Arthur Baldwin International Symposium. And I was just, if you would just speak to the significance of the James Baldwin Centennial and observing.
Well, the
him.
amazing thing about it, and maybe not so amazing, is that James Baldwin predicted this moment when the leadership in America would change.
Mm-hmm.
He said, first of all, there are no white people. They have never been white people. People are Swiss or Greek or Austrian or whatever. Mm-hmm. When they come to America and look at me, he said, they become white. Because white here means power, it means privilege, it means safety, it means all of those things awarded to a citizen.
Yes.
Which we are denied. And that leadership is corrupt. It cannot be trusted, and it will change. And the world is white no longer. I mean, he predicted those things. That essay called Stranger in the Village, in Notes of a Native Son, anticipated so much. So this moment is his, this centennial, his 100th birthday, the 100th birthday of a wonderful man, a delicious man,
Yes.
and a genius. And so we are proud. The world is proud. After all, he's commander of the Order of the Légion d'Honneur. The French have awarded him that. And in a piece I just wrote to him, I awarded him American philosopher. After W. Du Bois, and after Ralph Waldo Emerson, there's James Baldwin. How's that?
I love it. About like when he would come to your home, you would have gatherings.
Well, it wasn't so much when he would come. As a matter of fact, his sister lives right up the street on S Street, Gloria. They moved to Washington after they left, New York City. That wonderful apartment house that he bought for them on 71st Street, 137 West 71st Street, between Columbus Avenue and Broadway. So it's a historic location, although nobody lives there anymore.
Right.
And so, anyway, New York was not the only gathering place. There were gathering places all over, and D.C. was the center, a cultural center here. We had the little ensemble, Robert Hooks and Bantal Whitfield came to Washington, and where Robert Hooks had established the Negro Ensemble Company in New York. He came here and established DC Black Repertory Company. You know, there was always Howard University.
Yes.
There's a wonderful story about Howard University and James Baldwin. James Baldwin had never set foot on a college campus in his life. He went to a high school in New York called Clinton DeWitt.
DeWitt, yes.
And he was the schoolmate, or they were the schoolmate of people like Patty Chayefsky, the playwright, of Ralph Lauren, the designer, of Lionel Trilling, the intellectual magnate at Columbia University, Burt Lancaster, all of those people who became, and for many of them, DeWitt, Clinton DeWitt was their last institution. You know, when they were all were geniuses.
Right.
Anyway, James Baldwin was invited by the late, great Owen Dotson, professor of drama at Howard University, to come to see his play, which Mr. Dotson had directed.
Mm-hmm.
And when he came and was surrounded by people like E. Franklin Frazier and Sterling Brown and Mr. Dotson and so on, he said, I fell in love. They saved my life. And the Amen Corner was a great hit, playing to standing room only and so on. You know, so that's kind of his relationship with Howard. More recently, the Distinguished English Department at Howard University has produced dissertation after dissertation, which has established his place in the academy. And Toni Morrison, who is his heir, in her funeral oration, also a Howard University graduate, Toni Morrison, just laid the praise on him that he deserves. He was a mentor of the generation, of her and my generation.
Yes. And you mentioned his funeral, the celebration of life. You designed it?
Yeah,
and
the family asked me to. It was an incredible,
magnificent.
And is now literary history, you know.
Is there a recording of the full service? I know The Price of the Ticket, the documentary, begins and
I don't know
ends
whether
with
there's a recording of it or not.
just snippets, I guess.
There is, I think, a film. The family didn't want it, you know. They wanted a solemn ceremony without to do, but it turned out it was the whole world was there, and there was a film crew there that nobody knew about. You know, all of a sudden there is a movie. There's a film that you can request.
Well, I know that in The Price of the Ticket, James Baldwin, The Price of the Ticket.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
you see the drumming with Baba Olatunji and So growing up in Georgia, right there on the border of Florida, what was the name of the town and what was it like? They call it the city.
Thomasville, Georgia, my little hamlet, my little village, where I was born and lived until I was 6, or lived until the dawn of consciousness, I suppose. But what I remember about that, most of all, you know, there are images which freeze in your mind. They last forever. Hopefully they are wonderful ones. Those can keep you and guide you. If they're not wonderful ones, you need to cancel them and get rid of them. However, the image of my surrogate grandfather holding me in his arms day after day and reciting Little Brown Baby with Sparkling Eyes. Come to your pappy and sit on his knee. What you been doing? Eating sand pies? Look at you now, you dirty as me. Wish you could always know peace and clear skies. Little brown baby with sparkling eyes. That's Paul Laurence Dunbar's poem, but I thought my grandfather wrote it. But it is a poem of cherishment. And that is the dominant experience of my childhood, growing up in that hamlet. All of my people around me, you know. who grew up their children and caused us not to have an inferior bone in our bodies, who loved us, who cherished us, who encouraged us, and who gave us a childhood of imagination and curiosity amid horrid circumstances around us. Those were the days of lynchings and so on. Those are the days when no white person had to respect the feelings, the wishes, the rights of a black person. You know, that was the aura, the supremacy days.
Mm-hmm. And you were surrounded by plantations.
Yeah, the Pebble Hill Plantation was wonderful, but out of which many of my mother's people came and so on. But, and so the remarkability of it, the magic of it, that I have always called it the provenance of wonder, that a people could grow up, a generation of children in those circumstances, the likes of whom the world would hear from. It was glorious.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Traylor, and I am looking forward to continuing our conversation at the second Triennial James Arthur Baldwin
It's going to
International
be
Symposium.
wonderful. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you.